Hello, ice, ice, baby. Doom, 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 doom. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Well, okay, maybe not, but hey, I can say so. So what's up, folks? It's me. It's me. It's Deej, Deej, Deej. Hello, Richie Poole. You working on your Manny resume? Become a Manny? I know you can do it, Richie. You can become a Manny. We're all pulling for you. I see everyone and their mother's uncles live streaming tonight, but I don't care. I'm doing it too. And hello, Mike Richards. Greetings from Columbus, Ohio. I'm sending some nice weather your way. Yes, I am. So what's up with you guys tonight? Anything exciting happening? Is there anything exciting happening at all? Not in my little world. I haven't seen anything except all this damn snow, and now it's freezing rain on top of it. Be one hell of a video tomorrow to make in the ice and the rain and the snow, and yeah. The rotten skunk carcass, it got transferred mid and LDG ate it as a sandwich. I'm sorry. He ate it. There's some one skunk rotting challenge or something, and he intercepted the package and he ate it. I'm sorry. Something about it got confused with the one chip challenge or something, but now it's the one skunk rotting challenge, and he ate the damn thing. It's not my fault. So the next time you see him, blame him for it. I figured tonight, it's been a couple of days since I did a live stream of my own. I popped up on everybody else's, but I hadn't done my own, so here I am. I don't know how long this could be a really short stream because, well, like with Matthew's going, Enzo's going, Mandy's going, everybody's elsewhere, and it's just the three of us. Well, there's more watching, but I don't know which ones are watching because, well, they're not talking. But so far, I see probably about 4 inches out there or so, and now it's switched over to freezing rain and sleet. Hello, Captain Trek. Link's up above if you want it. So yeah, there's going to be a nice glaze of ice on top of everything when I go out there and play with it tomorrow. It's going to be fun. Should be interesting. I could fall all over and hurt myself. And hey, I got my first downvote already. Woohoo! Hello, Horrible Nation. The roads are already treacherous around here. I haven't even heard a snowplow go past in a while, so I think they gave up for the night. And hello, Parrot Head. Yep. It's just going to be a crazy day tomorrow. Hopefully I don't fall down and break a hip. But I'm sure somebody will tell me I probably will because I'm old. Oh. Other than that, not much else going on. Weather's too crappy for this and that. I'm just chilling like a villain. Ho, ho, ho. Let's see, what the hell's going on Twitter? First U.S. case of the new variant in Colorado. I don't know. Well, Cheez-It Bowl. Who cares? Gary from Rock Solid Productions. He just uploaded a new short on YouTube. So he's out there doing something, at least. You'll have to watch the stream because I don't really remember now what Bird was asking this and that. He was talking quite a bit. Yeah, I maybe can build a snow bunny there, Mike. It's supposed to be warming up all night, so you should get warm enough to where the snow will pack after I chip the ice off the top of it, and maybe I can build something. Build lots of little snow things. Deadly snow bunnies. Have them all lined up in a row. And then take a golf club out there and start winging their heads off. No, I better not do that. Cinnabon hears that, he'll get mad at me. So no, I won't hit the snow bunnies with a golf club. Hello, Mr. Get my YouTube channel flagged.
Not talking about that subject tonight.
But it's still funny. So what are you doing?
Do I need to apologize for something that was said earlier today on another stream? Okay, no. Then I won't do it. Right.
I actually did it all on purpose just to make somebody feel bad. I was actually
well, you got him. I mean, you totally got him. So
I know it. I was sitting back laughing my ass off. Wasn't really like I was getting many words in anyway, so I didn't really need to be up on the panel. So I just thought I'd make a dramatic exit.
Yeah, I was taking up space towards the end myself.
Pickles was the perfect person to make feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
I am proud of getting my Grogu. Any means necessary.
Yeah. Well,
actually, the truth is, there was no lady.
Really?
I made the whole story up. It was just sitting there on the shelf by itself.
Oh.
I just want to make everybody think I was Bruce, but don't tell Pickles because I want to keep playing this up.
Okay, well, he might be listening now, so.
No, he's busy over on another stream right now, so we're safe.
Okay, gotcha.
He's over yakking on Enzo, Big Afford to Entertainment stream, so I'm safe right now.
Okay. Yeah, I just watched an interesting video analysis of a movie that I saw back when I was a kid, and I never really watched it after that. But everybody talks about it every Christmas season. It's a Christmas Story, and it was a review of sorts by someone who's 2 generations removed from the baby boomers. Yes, the generation that movie was about, more or less. I suppose if you include the parents, it's the World War II generation as well. But yes. And she's just pointing out how and the thing is, I've always kind of considered our Christmas Story to be a black comedy about Christmas. A comedy about unfunny things related to Christmas. And she takes it as, she was introduced to this movie as this, we're going to play it for 24 hours on TBS, that kind of thing. Like, It's a Wonderful Life they used to do. And then also, various other, Christmas style movies. And then somewhere, I think in the 90s, they started this tradition of playing A Christmas Story for 24 hours straight. And they revere it in the same way they revere a lot of other legit Christmas movies. And she's totally looking at this from a different perspective than than I did when I was a kid. And how sad the movie is, and how sick and wrong a lot of it is. So it was interesting. The video, if anybody's interested, is on a channel called what is it here? Truth Stream Media. 2 words. Truth Stream and then Media. I could put a link in there if somebody wants a link, but
Yeah, I've seen all kinds of people on Twitter this season blasting the movie because of this and that and the other.
yeah. And I think the problem is that it's kind of like, reminds me of Born in the USA, that song by Bruce Springsteen. It's not a pro-American song, but everybody seemed to think it was. And it was used in patriotic advertising and things like that. And it's the song that Bruce Springsteen doesn't play in concert anymore, hasn't for years, because it just had the wrong reaction, and I think that's what happened here with The Christmas Story. I think The Christmas Story was, for the most part, a black comedy, and it got elevated by people who didn't understand what they were looking at, to a degree.
I find it funny.
Oh, it is funny. Yes, it is. Absolutely, it's a funny movie. But
I may have a dark and twisted sense of humor, but
right. Hey, well, I mean, you also wear a bunny suit on occasion. I mean, I understand.
That's right.
Yeah, but and I don't even have a problem with the whole Red Ryder BB gun thing. That there was, first of all, in the 50s, every kid. I mean, science fiction wasn't a mainstream thing. And so every kid's the action heroes of media were cowboys usually. He didn't want a pistol; he just wanted a rifle. And what did he dream about doing? He dreamed about defending his family from, bandits, things. So I mean, it wasn't like he was dreaming about, walking into a bank with it or something, But no, there's other things in that movie that
the biggest complaint I seen was the whole going out for dinner thing at the Chinese restaurant.
Oh, that was funny. I mean, that's just people that are fishing for something to bitch about. I saw nothing wrong with that. Chinese restaurant would be open on Christmas Day.
Yeah, a lot of the immigrants back then spoke very broken English, so it would come out. Rah, 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 rah.
Right, but I mean, those are clearly Japanese people or Chinese people. There's actors singing that song, and and hey, I give them credit for trying. For here comes this Caucasoid family on Christmas Day wants to eat a bird, and they make him a bird. I mean, that's great to me,
Even though it was still smiling at them.
Yeah, and then the guy pulls out a meat cleaver and chops the head off in front of everybody. Yeah, that was,
and what did they do? They laughed. It's not
they
like
laughed,
it was.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
It was funny. Well, the mom jumped, and then they all kind of laughed. Yeah.
And Ralphie playing with the leg lamp.
Yeah,
that wasn't that bad either.
Well, there was a hidden message there that I never picked up on. Okay, he basically wants to make an altar for this leg lamp, wants to give this leg lamp more attention than he gives his wife, and so she gives him a blue bowling ball, puts it right in his crotch. He gives him a blue ball.
Mm-hmm.
That went right over my head when I was a kid, of course, because I didn't know.
Well, yeah, it
that
went over my head.
Yeah.
The most I thought was, she dropped the ball in his lap and it hurt him.
Yeah.
Ha.
Yeah. But yeah, and the scene where he stands up to the bully, he doesn't actually stand up to the bully. That's that there's no courage there. That's all just pent up rage, and continues to hit him, even though he's got him down, and it was there's nothing heroic about that moment. It still feels kind of Schadenfreude to watch, of course, but what we typically know about childhood bullies, 9 times out of 10, they don't have the best home lives anyway. So, but
I noticed when we were doing that review of it that back in the 80s, a lot of the bullies all had red hair.
yeah.
Maybe that's how they got to be soulless gingers.
I have a cousin who's redheaded. She's got a soul, that's for sure. But that guy looked so opie on that movie too. It was just like
it's hard to imagine him as the bully. He seems like the type that would have been the bullied.
He probably was to people of his own size, but of course he went after kids that were 3 or 4 years younger than him, and that's what happened. But yeah,
the most horrible thing was Ralphie's brother that couldn't get up every time he fell over in that snowsuit, just like a turtle on his back.
Yeah, he just he couldn't move, couldn't breathe.
And of course, that movie had the creepiest Santa Claus ever.
Oh yeah, that whole thing was like an acid trip. That whole scene.
It's
you got the elves, the elves that hate children, and it's just and every
if
kid.
If I was a really small kid, I would hate Santa Claus after that.
Oh yeah, well every kid that we see that gets put on his lap starts screaming, and then they all delight in pushing kids down the slide. Just
there's only one worse Santa, and that's Bad Santa.
Yeah, I mean the whole shattered dreams with the whole little orphan Annie secret decoder pin Ovaltine thing. Was another one. It's the thing is it's not a movie about Christmas. It's a story that happens to take place during Christmas, and I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I just I think it shouldn't be elevated the way it is. But anywho,
well, it probably was cheap.
Yeah.
For TBS to do that for 24 hours, it was better than trying to pay for the program.
But yeah, well, do you remember back in the day there was this thing called the SFM Holiday Network? Do you remember that?
I'm trying to remember.
Okay, so what it was a special network that was fed to local broadcast affiliates on the holidays, so that people who worked on those broadcasting locations could get Christmas off. And they would play, and they would come on during the holidays. That's why it was called the SFM Holiday Network. And so they would always play. They had these exclusive movies that they could broadcast, and so it was always kind of special, when you would tune in on that, because they'd have, I'm trying to think, they had the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
No torturing me today, please. I've had a really shitty birthday.
Oh, hello.
Hello, O.
Well, we did a little word game on Twitter, and it turned Anthony's name into Ho. But apparently, when we ran my name through it to remove the letters, literally all 3 names turned into just the letter O. So I decided I was a blowjob face.
Either that or it's short for orgasmo.
Yeah, I was gonna say O here. It sounds like she needs an O.
Tell your husband to get with it.
Yeah, tell your husband that.
You mean the guy that's sick out there trying to deal with the snow? Yeah. Poor guy.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
It's been a crappy day. Fuck it. We all have them. I just didn't need it on my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
I already said happy birthday to you the other night early, so I'm not.
I know. I'm not the one who scheduled that. I took crap for that because of other people's birthdays. It's like, I didn't schedule it. Everyone else did. I just went along with it.
Happy birthday, soulless redhead. I just learned from Deej that redheads have no souls. So Then you came on.
Really, DJ? You're pushing that shit.
Well, you look at like A Christmas Story and all them other shows back in the 80s, all the evil people, all the bullies were redheads.
I was never a bully. I was never evil. Thank you.
Oh, you've had some evil tendencies at times.
I am admiring the art to her left and her behind her as well.
Road Warrior Drake, Tilt, and Vestige with Ethan Shiver's drawing. And then an old Star Trek cover.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when superheroines in comics all looked like that. Now they're all bundled up with guy bods.
Well, with Tilt here, I actually did with the guy. I actually helped do some of the alternate art for some of the extras for it, the campaign for the second book. So,
yeah.
Well, damn, it's a slow night. I've only had one downvote.
Piss people off better. I'm here. That should be easy. Hey, people, downvote him. He's a bastard.
Wow.
Oh. He knows I'm teasing him.
Hello, Professor Brainy Specs. Poe is even in the house.
People have an awful hard time pronouncing his name sometimes, especially when it gets late. Andy Trekker called him something different last time. Brainy something or other.
Well, when it gets
something.
when it gets really late, we call him Brainy Sex.
Yeah, I said that one time, Brainy Sex. And then I denied it, but no, it's true. I said it. He didn't care for that variation in his name, by the way. So
see you later, sci-fi guy. He's got to go cook. We got the winch-up sandwich in here, and sci-fi guy has to go cook. And I did not say it first. Parrothead brought it up.
Hello, Parrot. Give me lots of crap later. I'm sure I deserve it anyways.
Always.
There, you got 2 downvotes.
Did you get to 1,000 subs yet?
No.
Slacker. Oh, now she's re-listening to herself say, there, you got 2 downvotes.
That's not me.
No, that was my headset. Sorry, I got a little bit too loud.
Oh,
I seen my mic's way over there.
I seen her looking, holding her phone up, and I thought it was coming through that.
No, that was me.
I'm messaging a friend who's trying to help me deal with some stuff real quick.
You have friends?
More than you probably have.
Well, that's true. I piss everybody off, so.
It's a skill. Just say that you're talented.
I am talented. Don't you know I'm the Grinch that stole Christmas?
That's believable.
And that's why I have a Grogu. There we go. Now I got 4 downvotes, 3 downvotes, something. I'm doing good now.
I'm actually thinking about getting a rotating stand for my Deep Space Nine Eagle Moss that I got.
Who is Witch's Witch? Somebody's stalking you, Rosetta.
I have no idea.
Calling you darling.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't remember the name.
Is this one of those play Misty for me situations, or you don't get that reference, do you?
Probably not tonight.
It was a movie with Clint Eastwood where he played a late night DJ, and this woman always called in and would have him play a song called Misty, I guess. And she ended up stalking him, and it was it was basically Clint Eastwood, Mr. Dirty Harry, tough cowboy kind of guy, being stalked by a woman who was crazy.
Witchess is the lady.
I was just visiting Life with Matthew's stream, and I referenced Paul Newman. How many people here would know who I'm talking about when I mentioned Paul Newman?
I do.
Okay, he did not know who Paul Newman was.
That's sad.
And when he looked that up, Googled him, he says, I don't recognize this guy at all.
That's extremely sad.
I thought so too. I had to leave.
Oh, apparently they're stalking me. Okay. Oh, well. I got plenty of stalkers.
I still remember the first time Annie Trekker put a little like animated thing of you in a bunny suit shoveling snow. And I was like, what is that? It's like...
Yeah, and then tried to play it off that he wasn't playing anything. It was just everybody's imagination.
Oh, that was like that was referencing, I think, the invisible bunny Harvey, you know. I thought that's what he was talking about.
That's right. Paul Newman is on salad dressing. Okay, I'm going to bring somebody up here in a minute. I want to see what they have to say. So just chill, people. Yes, George?
Greetings.
Greetings.
Hey, Rosetta, how you doing?
Ugh.
Okay, listen. Do you ever wonder why at Deep Space Nine, 7 of 9, in the original Star Trek series, there were 9 primary characters?
No.
Okay, well, discuss, because when you find out the answer, it's going to blow your mind.
Alrighty then. Boy, it looks like we're having some fun ones in here tonight.
I know, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to think of what to say, and my brain's just going, fuck it all.
No, I'm just getting some of the... So, it's time for fun. Boom. Yeah, there goes one. Line up, people.
Come in, and know us better, man.
Nah, I'm getting rid of the troll patrol. They're so boring.
So, did you hear that thing I mentioned to Bird on his channel about that new manly scent thing that I discovered?
Oh yeah.
You did. Okay.
I was still there at that point.
Okay, gotcha.
That's when I said it smelled like urine and
No, it doesn't smell like urine.
spittoons.
I wouldn't have. No, it doesn't smell like spittoons.
Well, when I think of a saloon, that's what I think of.
Well, I'm talking about like an old timey saloon, which you're not old enough to have been to.
An old timey saloon. People went there.
Yeah. I'm talking about back when leather was heavily perfumed.
Yeah.
And the bourbon was, you could smell the bourbon and the tobacco, sweet tobacco, not like bitter cigarette tobacco. It's good smelling stuff.
You bet it says smell like Brute? Brute by Fabergé.
No. My favorite, when I was a kid, this must have been like 82, 83, there was an ad on NBC for a cologne. It was called Cody Wild Musk. Use it before you stalk. And it had like two magazine quality models, a guy and a girl who were like caveman and woman, but they were all oiled up, and it was just stupid. But I just remember that cheesy tagline, use it before you stalk. You don't remember that either, huh?
No.
Okay, I found it on YouTube. I'm gonna put it in your chat.
Hey, DD. That's right, Yvette. Brute is older than all of us.
Might have to use that for one of my videos.
Ooh. Take a look at this and see what it is. Cody Wild Musk. Alrighty then. Yeah, I'm not going to dress like that. No way. No. Hell no. Nobody wants to see a fat man dressed like that. I love that old ancient keyboard of yours.
What?
The loud clickings. Click, 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 click.
You know, it's not that old. It's only 10 years old. This
Only 10 years old. Actually, don't feel bad because the new ones they're selling now are just that bad too. They are loud. Everything's gone retro on us. Hello.
Rock Solid Productions put out a video here. He wanted to know what your favorite. This is a general question he asked of these audience. What was your favorite bad video game console game?
Favorite bad video console game?
My answer was The Incredible Hulk for Sega Genesis.
I got to say Pac-Man for Atari 2600.
Yeah, that was quite a weak thing. I mean, it was 2600 was I believe a black and white game system.
It was color. It was just mostly yellow and junk and 2 maps. And
I don't remember it being in color. I remember the ColecoVision being in color.
Oh, Bill. Yeah,
ColecoVision. ColecoVision had a slightly better looking, more arcade authentic presentation for Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. and such. But yeah.
It's definitely in color because
Okay, well.
Here, I'll even show a picture of the.
But I remember that the Pac-Man in the Atari 2600 Pac-Man, yeah, it wasn't even a circle. It was like a diamond. That was with, that was how poor the graphics were back then.
Yeah, and only 2 mazes. That's it.
That's it. Only 2 mazes. Wow. And so I mean, the arcade game, of course, had all kinds of wild ones, and it had more colors and more fidelity.
And I think the ghosts weren't really that original.
No.
They did have a little color to them. They were pretty weak.
Yeah, it was very monochrome. Yeah. The 2600 was I mean, that was back when the best video games were still at the arcade in terms of graphics and everything. And then I think probably by the late 90s or 80s rather, the consoles surpassed the arcade games.
Well, by the time it got to Ms. Pac-Man on the 5200, then it was starting to actually look good.
Yeah, well, there was a period right in the middle of the 80s when game consoles just kind of died for about 2 or 3 years. And I think it was because, kids got an Atari 2600 one year for Christmas, and then the next year or the year after that, the 5200, came out, and they wanted the 5200, and the parents didn't understand that. So, but your current system works, and the idea of replacing an appliance or anything like that in your home with something that still works, it's like your TV. You would use that TV until it went out on you, and then you'd get the upgrade, right? And especially boomer parents, they're not that just did not compute. Why would you need that new one when you got this one? And they didn't. A lot of them couldn't see the difference. My dad was terrible at this kind of stuff. I'd show him the difference between the graphics of one computer game system versus another, and he said, I can't see a difference. But he always let the economics cloud his vision. So, and I think that's what happened. I think that nobody bought the 5200. Atari lost money and then eventually went away, and it took a while for Nintendo and Sega to kind of get traction.
He's getting closer, Rosetta, to spelling your name right.
Rosalata.
He's getting closer. Just call her Miss O.
What was your favorite bad video game, Rosetta, or did you not play?
Most of what I played was just a few RPGs I could get my hands on from my brothers. I didn't have a lot of gaming because we didn't have the money to game. We didn't usually have TVs, so
yeah.
I didn't really get to explore that world very much.
Bill really enjoyed Wonder Woman 84.
Some people I've heard are enjoying it a lot. I think that the intent of the film may have gone over some people's heads. I think that it was actually trying to be a movie that look and feel like a movie that came out in 84. A lot of the choices that they made.
From the scenes I've watched, I kind of agree with Anthony. It doesn't look like the 80s to me. Nothing I remember from my childhood.
Right, but I'm talking about like the idea of having this awkward villain. It starts out as an awkward nerd, and then becomes jealous of the hero, and then strives to beat that hero at their own game. We saw that in a lot of movies.
Here's a simple rule of thumb for that movie: don't have sex with a spirit that's inhabiting somebody else's body.
Yeah, I've heard about that too.
That's still kind of a rapey thing.
Yeah. It's okay when a woman does it, though. Don't you know that?
Yeah, apparently.
All I'm going to say, Orville, so I don't spoil things for other people that might not have seen it yet, it is a far cry from the first one.
Yeah.
It is a far cry from the first one.
Yeah, the one thing that also kind of bothered me was the break in continuity. In Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman says that after World War I, she left humanity. We assume that she went back to her people, and then only recently came back, when the whole, when the whole, plot from Batman v Superman came out. But now, of course, they're establishing that, no, she was, around and active, running around in malls in full costume in 1984. And it's like one of the whole points of that scene in Batman v Superman where Bruce Wayne is looking through, breaks into LexCorp's computer and finds that these images of Diana, and then finds one from 1911. That the idea was that she was clandestine. Nobody realized that she was that old and had been around that long until that point. And it's like, well, if she was running around and people had cameras in 1985 or 84. They weren't digital, but you had to develop film, but the people had them.
Well, that's the other thing. Security cameras back then, taking the camera out, they'd still have the video in the actual security office.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Video would be on VCR tapes, and they'd still be in the office. She'd have to actually go in there and destroy all that too.
Yep. Yeah. And so I mean they're playing fast and loose with their continuity. They kind of did a little bit, I thought, with Aquaman, but not as bad as this. It's like the DCU doesn't the DCU doesn't have a defined vision right now, so they just
No.
they're kind of like winging it, going on. They don't have a plan like Marvel had a plan, And
Let's be clear on one thing too with the whole issue with Aquaman. The only reason that movie was a success is because there were more females than males going to see it, and they were sitting in the audience going,
what I mean, I wanted to see an Aquaman movie. I mean, come on,
no, don't get me wrong. Aquaman is a character I wanted to see, but the reason that movie was so successful is because they played on the getting women in the seats to draw.
Well,
there was
not only that, but there was plenty of people that wanted to go see Jason Momoa just because he was on Stargate Atlantis too.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but there was definitely a reason why they cast Jason Momoa for Aquaman when because I mean if you had shown me if you had shown me
superhero movie to ever have a larger female audience than male.
Yeah. If you had shown me a picture of Jason Momoa like 10 years ago and said, okay, which DC superhero is he going to play? I would have said hands down, he's playing Lobo. Look at him, But then, they cast him for Aquaman and they kind of have this unique sort of blending of a couple different versions of Aquaman from the comics plus a bunch of new stuff. He's basically like their Tony Stark. He's got a smart aleck remark for everything. He's kind of like Wolverine in a way, in that he's got a bit of a dirty side. He likes to hang out in bars by the seaside and stuff. I think they've actually come up with a pretty fun version of the character for the movies.
And that's right, PJ. He was back at Atlantis.
Yeah. But I mean, I think the Smallville series had an Arthur Curry too.
They did.
And he actually looked pretty authentic to the original version of the character. But
well, at least it wasn't spandex on there. At least his was a hoodie and stuff.
It was a diving suit. Yeah, I think he had some diving suits and things. But okay, Deej, we need to get something very, very, very straight right now. Superheroes do not wear spandex. Superheroes predate spandex by about 40 years. What they are actually wearing are tights. Now, it's true that basically comic book superheroes have costumes that are basically painted on. The artist draws essentially a nude form, and then a couple of lines to denote where the skin stops and the fabric begins. But spandex has very different properties than what superhero costumes depict in the comics. Spandex tightens and smoothens out everything, whereas superhero tights, unitards, things like that, they fill in every nook and cranny. You know what I mean?
Well, we got a chance. I'm going to say hello to Master Jedi Wonder and LDG Bad Boy Pickles.
So, you happen to stumble upon a minor pet peeve of mine when people say that superheroes wear spandex. Spandex came out later, much later.
I will say men in tights.
That's fine. Tights is good.
That's what I was doing. As soon as you said it's tights, I was just singing that in my head and out loud.
Yeah. So there's a couple of pet peeves I have. That another one is calling that red fruit twist a red licorice.
It should be black anyway.
Well, licorice is black. There is no such thing as red licorice. The thing that you call red licorice is actually called a fruit twist.
I like the black licorice.
Yeah. Tastes like anisette. That's why it's called licorice.
Yvette says, is spandex lycra?
Well, lycra came out later too. I mean, lycra is what like, for example, the TNG uniforms were all made out of lycra.
Yeah, those onesies.
Yeah, and the stuff that came after that. I mean, yeah.
Oh, what fun it is to laugh and sing. No yawning, damn it.
Sorry.
I'm trying to stay awake. I'm going to go sit outside after I'm done streaming and see what kind of more mess is out there for me.
What do you mean?
Snowing.
Oh,
Well,
it's snowing.
it's no longer snowing here. It's freezing rain on top of the snow now.
Oh, that's not
We're
good.
supposed to get that tomorrow. It's supposed to snow all night here first and get really sick.
Hey, we're getting even closer now. It's Rosaletta. Just take the one E and the L out, Bill. You got it.
Yeah, it snowed here today too.
I think it quit.
I know I'm terrible because I don't use my name often.
I think it quit about 4 inches in and then switched to the freezing rain here and the sleet. So
Yeah.
it's supposed to warm up all night, though. Steady warm up. Should be about 36 by sunrise tomorrow. Rosetta can have all the snow. Everything across the river in Iowa was supposed to get like 10 inches of it. Tiki is here and says, let's go. You're getting closer though, Bill. We're proud of you. Just take that first E out and that L out and you're good as gold.
I'm thinking about trying out Raid Shadow Legends. It's available now for the PC for free. Because I'm sick of getting advertisements for it every time I watch a video, but I'm kind of curious now to see how much it sucks.
I don't know. I did so good at Christmas with super chats that I bought 2 new games I'm going to try out. They were favorites of mine when I was younger, but I bought the updated versions of Resident Evil 2 and 3.
Nifty.
I'm going to try them out maybe on a stream one day, see how fast I get killed. It's been at least a decade since I played them.
Huh.
And these updated versions look a lot harder. And Steam was having a big sale on them, so I picked up both of them for like $25.
Yeah, I have Steam, but I also have Epic Games launcher, and they give out free games every week. And I just go in and I don't download them. I just, so I've got a pretty big catalog now of free games, a lot of which I'll never try. But one of them a couple of weeks ago was Cities Skylines. Probably, just the base version of the game. It's that, and I know that the one that Bird plays probably has a whole bunch of different expansion packs on it, but I was kind of curious to try that out. I got to mute myself while I go Joloja. I'll be right back.
All right. Tiki's catching up on The Mandalorian. Still holding out for a Max Rebo cameo. Tiki gets free games on Epic too. Miss O's eating, so she just turned her camera off. I'm back here by myself again, folks.
I like my salad.
Oh, she's having a salad. Eventually, one of these days, I'm going to finish off this. I've had these suckers for a week now, and I'm still not through them all.
There is a Star Wars project that Lucasfilm could do, and it's kind of like an obvious one. Do you remember in the 90s, the mid-90s, LucasArts had an event called Shadows of the Empire?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was basically an experiment. A lot of people think it was done also to generate revenue so they could start filming the prequel trilogy. But basically, a book was written called Shadows of the Empire, which took place in between Empire Strikes Back and and Return of the Jedi. And so they released toys, they had comic books, they had the book, they even had video games, all the stuff you would expect if they were releasing a Star Wars movie, but with no movie. And one of the characters that was introduced was, because you got to remember this at this point, Han Solo was frozen in carbonite, and so the number one smuggler out there, who sort of took over in his absence, was a character called Dash Render, and he had a ship somewhat similar to the Millennium Falcon called the Outrider, and it was because Han Solo's ship was a heavily modified YT 1300 freighter. Well, Dash Render had a YT 2400 freighter, smaller, but it was also highly customizable and all that kind of stuff. And I dug that ship a lot. And so if they have Dash Render show up in the Mandalorian, or if maybe he gets his own show, or if they just decide to do like a mini-series event on Shadows of the Empire, I think that would be kind of neat.
I forgot that was another guilty pleasure of mine.
What's
the Star Wars game for Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
I mean, all you were was in a snow speeder firing at walkers the entire game, but
that was the whole game.
Yeah, it just kept they kept getting faster and faster and closer together. But
yeah, video games back then weren't that deep. They were reflex games. That's what I call them.
And you always had to try to aim for a little dot that was flashing on it to hit them.
Yeah. One game that surprised me in terms of how well it was received and how much it was revered was the GoldenEye game that came out in conjunction with the GoldenEye movie release. Apparently, normally you have licensed games like that aren't very good, but that one apparently was very innovative, and it was praised heavily. And I'd never seen that before, where a licensed game, set around the launch of a movie, got critical acclaim like that. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, we know how well E.T. did.
Yeah. Or Journey Escape.
Yeah. Those had to be a couple of the worst games ever.
Well, Journey Escape could have been anything. That's what's funny. It's like they have little stick figures running around a hallway, and you could have literally slapped any title on that game.
Even the Dungeons and Dragons game for Nintendo back in the day was better than those.
Yeah. I liked the cartoon, but I didn't like anything else about that D&D stuff.
Oh, I used to play it all the time.
Yeah, I didn't live in a very cosmopolitan area, and so there was nobody near me that played D&D.
I'm out in the Hicks, and we play D&D.
No, yeah, you lucked out then, but, and that's the Sticks, not the Hicks. But, anyway.
Because, the one guy that started the main games, he ran a comic book store.
Well, see, there you go. We didn't have a comic book store in my hometown.
We used to go up there and play in the back room, and then we started going to his house on weekends, and we'd start a game on a Friday night and not quit till Sunday.
Wow.
I mean, it was so bad we could call Pizza Hut up and just say, and they'd hear our voices and say the usual, and we'd say, "Yep, we're setting it out."
They probably had caller ID.
Early 90s, so yeah, they could have had caller ID then.
Oh, yeah, they had caller ID in the mid-'80s, but it was a very expensive extra feature at the time.
But we never had to tell them what we wanted. They knew exactly what it was as soon as we called, and they'd send it.
I remember my best friend, Sean, his parents got call waiting. They were like the first people in town to have call waiting. And I'd get him on the phone, I'd be talking to him, and all of a sudden, the call would go mute for a second, and then all of a sudden he goes, "Hey, can you hold on? I got another call." I'm like, "No, I'm talking to you now." No, just I gotta hold on. And then he put me on hold for 5-10 minutes, and I would just hang up.
Yeah, that'd get annoying.
Well, it's like and it, I was being a curmudgeon because anytime we have this new convenience technology, I usually reject it. It's kind of like I didn't like texting when texting started becoming a thing either. And I remember when people started getting phones that were really starting to draw a lot of their attention. There were public service announcements on TV that said, put your phone down. You're missing life, right? And it was considered rude that if you were, having dinner with somebody to all of a sudden be looking at your phone, and now, we lost that battle. Like we lost that battle like in 2003,
I still fight the fight.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting there with somebody and trying to eat dinner and they try to grab their phone, I yell at them.
Yeah. Yeah. Depends on the crowd you're in.
Welcome back, you bet. Only a couple more days till hell gets unleashed. The new Doctor Who episode. That's what I call it.
Well, I liked the Russell T Davies era, and I liked the first part of the Stephen Moffat era. But after that, I left. In fact, I left pretty much. I checked out the Peter Capaldi Doctor, and I didn't like his personality. It was getting better, but I still didn't like it. And
hey, look, LGD just put a definition of himself up.
Yeah. But no, they've totally deformed and mangled their own IP, and for nothing. It's so.
I liked Capaldi.
Yeah. Well, that was fine.
He did the best that he could with the writing that he got.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that Moffat wrote some outstanding episodes during this Russell T Davies era, but when he became showrunner, he ran out of steam for me about a season and a half in. Basically, the episode "A Good Man Goes to War" was the last good episode that he did, I thought. After that, it really started to go downhill. And
if they could have had the writing they did at the beginning of this new run of the Doctor, Capaldi, he could have been as great as Baker.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely, one of the things was that, Capaldi was a fan of Doctor Who, so that always helps, Sometimes it's not necessary. What's his face? Matt Smith had never watched Doctor Who because he grew up during that 20-some-odd year gap where there was no Doctor Who on BBC television. And so he saw, various performances from the previous Doctors, and he zeroed in on Doctor number 2 and how he's funny. I think his words were that he said that he was funny without asking the audience to be funny, if he could be funny. And so that's one of the Doctors that he sort of channeled for that. He didn't, he made it his own, of course, but there were aspects of the what was his name? Patrick Troughton, right? Of that Doctor that he liked the most. So,
and then you got the shit show now of a Doctor that hadn't watched anything Doctor, so she watched a couple of Smith episodes and a couple of Tennant episodes, and then decided to cosplay them.
Yeah, and the thing is, they had a machine that was working. This whole thing called the Doctor. Now, when they brought him back in 2005, they did change something. They made him this more mythic character, the last of the Time Lords, right? But that was never going to be the status quo anyway. I mean, for very long. I mean, I'm surprised they kept it the status quo as long as they did. But for them to go back and say that the first Doctor really wasn't the first Doctor, and that, of course, the first version of the Doctor was female, and that the Time Lords got their regeneration ability from him, and just, undermining the foundation of a great franchise like that is never a good idea. And it's always done by people who want to make an impact on something but they don't want to make it better going forward. They want to go back and, restructure from behind. I mean, and people do it all the time, and it's just not. It never works. 9 times out of 10 does not work, and you end up, creating much more problems for a narrative. The continuity is a mess now. It's to the point, and you force the fandom to decide, okay, I either have to accept this new retroactive continuity of the Doctor, or I can reject it and stick with the Doctor that I know. And most fans are, from what I can tell, rejecting it.
I reject it. Doctor Who died as soon as Capaldi regenerated, and the TARDIS kicked out that abomination.
Yeah, I mean, it's, okay, this is a hallmark of bad leaders. Okay, and I've seen this several times when I was in the military and outside. When you get a bad leader, one of the first things they try to do is make a bunch of superficial changes, like changing the names of things, because it's relatively easy to do, but it ultimately, doesn't, that big, because they're desperate, they're groping for something that demonstrates right away that they're in charge now, and they're hoping that will stick. So, for example, short story here. There was a room in Trepang, a compartment called SES, Sonar Equipment Space. And it was called that because it had nothing but sonar equipment in it. It was where the main computers were that ran the consoles that we were using on the next deck up. And we got a new senior chief who was convinced that by the end of the following year that our rate was going to change from sonar technician to combat systems technician. And so he got clearance with the captain to rename that space CST, CSES, Combat Systems Equipment Space. It had me, go down and get new labels to put on the door and everything. And it was, it was just ridiculous, And by the way, this never happened. The idea he thought was going to happen was they were going to combine the fire control rate and the torpedoman rate with the sonar rate and call it combat systems technicians. And it never happened. But anyway, we came in from an underway, and we had the Navy provides every submarine with foul weather suits. They're orange jumpsuits that they wear, just in case they fall in the water. Well, he got a hold of one, still in the package, and hid it in sonar equipment space. I saw him do it. He didn't see me though. He didn't see that I saw him. And I'm saying to myself, I bet you that motherfucker's gonna try to pilfer this, which is a big no-no. So my senior chief goes on Liberty, which is for time off for about a week.
Yep.
To go on vacation, and in that time we had ended up having to do a emergency Tiger cruise, which is a VIP cruise. VIP cruise was something that we had to do once in a while when a senator wanted to take some friends of his out on a submarine for a 4-hour excursion, right? So all of a sudden we had to get underway, and there was a machinist mate who needed a foul weather suit, and so I took him into SCS. I think there's one in there, and he goes, "What's this doing in here?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just saw it in here." He grabs it, we go out on our underway. The suit goes back to where it should have been, and so the senior chief comes back from leave. And about 2 days after he comes back from leave, he calls me into the sonar shack, demanding to know who's been in sonar equipment space. And I said, well, there's no lock on the door. People come in here all the time for a quiet place to read and things like that. And he's like, well, I had a a jumpsuit in here that I was saving for hunting. He actually told me that he was going to pilfer it. And I was like, and now it's gone. I'm like, well, anybody could have taken it, sir. And he's like, well, this is this is a sonar space. I mean, only sonarmen should be in here. I'm like, well, no, everybody uses it. And I said, by the way, it's combat system space now, which means that any torpedo men or fire control men can come in here too, since it's technically now their space as well. And he was just seething with rage.
Oh, poor little baby.
Yeah. He later got into some serious trouble after I got out of the Navy and got busted from senior chief down to an E6 and then got sent to Leavenworth, the federal prison for other things that he was doing, obviously. And so that didn't surprise me, but yeah, he was my boss for a while.
Well, at least karma bit him in the ass in the end.
Oh yeah, but there's other stories like this too. A few years ago, Chevrolet got a new president, and his first act, he abolished the term Chevy. You no longer call this company Chevy. Nothing we make is called a Chevy. It's all Chevrolet. And that went out on a memo, and they had to, and they spent all this money that they spent on signs and things like that for, that said Chevy on them. Especially if you want people that buy Chevy trucks to also call them Chevrolet trucks? I mean, come on, Chevy rhymes with heavy. That's one of the reasons why they did, that they made that choice and decided to use that nickname for the trucks. And so you got this dickhead who comes in thinking that he's going to change like 40 years worth of brand recognition because he doesn't like it when they abbreviate the name of the company to Chevy, and he was gone within a year. Just not a very good guy.
I mean, come on, if it wasn't for Chevy, you couldn't have took it down to the levee, but the levee was dry.
Exactly. Songs have been written with that name, and but here comes this guy, who's been given power, convinces somebody, the board or whatever, to put him in authority, and one of the first things he wants to do is change a name. It's always something I always look for. I'm like, watch the first thing this guy does. I bet you he's going to change the name of something, and those people are never good leaders.
Nope, and that's what you got with poor Doctor Who now. They had to change the entire thing and make a timeless child. The Doctor isn't even a Gallifreyan anymore.
Right. I mean, Moffat had to change some things too, and a lot of it I didn't agree with. I mean, the original plan for Day of the Doctor, for example, was supposed to be 9, 10, and 11 in that story. But Eccleston won't come back to Doctor Who. He apparently had such a bad experience in that first season, he just didn't want to come back and wants to, he doesn't come to conventions, doesn't answer questions about Doctor Who or anything like that. So then, okay, they're going to use 8. Well, 8 was busy. All he could do is film a little short for them, which was actually pretty neat. And they had to shoehorn in this Doctor that nobody knew about. That then they had to they had to fudge everything so that the numbering would still sort of be accurate, even though it wasn't. The War Doctor was just a messy shoehorn. Now I love what's his face in it, John Hurt. But this messes up the numbering.
The numbering was already messed up from Tennant counting us twice.
Well, you could say that, and that could have been something that they just conveniently forgot about. But him, about to regenerate, and then putting the regeneration energy into his hand. That's fine. He's still the 10th Doctor because he didn't change into somebody else.
But he used regeneration to do it, so that does take away from a regeneration of the cycle.
Right, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the numbering being messed up, because what the War Doctor did was retroactively make the 9th Doctor not really the 9th Doctor. That made him the 10th Doctor. That made 10th the 11th, and the 11th the 12th. And if you wanted to count the hand regeneration, then that brings that boosts 11 up to 13, which means he's the last one.
Yep, and that's why they had to do the new recycle
right
regeneration cycle, which means nothing now because we find out he didn't need it.
It's just a mess.
And that's why
Chibnall. People rejoiced when they announced that Chibnall would be the new showrunner. I'm like, why? Have you seen his episodes?
Yeah,
his episodes were the ones that sucked.
Yeah, all his episodes sucked. It was the only time he ever did good writing anything, and that was for Torchwood.
Yeah, I mean, his Doctor Who
episodes were okay, but Doctor Who stories,
they were always the filler ones, the ones you skip when you stream the show, when you binge, because they usually had nothing. They brought nothing to the larger plot of the season, and they were just filler, and they weren't even that good, They usually relied on some sort of visual special effects gimmick to get them through.
Yeah, an alien that devours people and makes them part of them.
Yeah, or there was one that he did. Let me look it up real quick here.
And I'm sorry, Jodie might have been good on Broadchurch or whatever it was, but she sucks as a doctor.
Yeah, he did The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, which I don't in series 9 where they and again that was the Silurians. They reintroduced the Silurians, and the only clever thing about that episode was that they revealed that they were wearing masks in the in the old series, because then they pull off those masks and they've got like actors with really good lizard makeup underneath. He did Dinosaurs on a Spaceship.
Yeah, that
which was dumb. He did.
Yeah, let's throw a ball so a Triceratops will chase it like a dog.
Yeah, he did the Power of Three, which was a dumb episode. He did some other ones too. Okay, Doctor Who. Okay, he did four. Okay, here's the creme de la creme. 42. He wrote that episode, which was the 10th Doctor episode with Martha, where they receive a distress signal from the SS Pendleton, a human spacecraft that is hurtling towards the sun. I remember that. That was and it was all. The gimmick was, they had 42 minutes left before the ship plunges into the sun. It was the one you could skip. The only thing that was significant in it was that DeMartha calls her mother while they're on that spaceship, because the Doctor fixes her phone so she can make a phone call through time. And her mother is trying to tell her that, some men have come by and told her about the Doctor and that he's dangerous and she shouldn't be with him. And she hears screaming. That's it. That's like the biggest contribution that episode ever did. And then we come to his debut as showrunner, The Woman Who Fell to Earth. It's just... But he's written a lot of crap here. He's written Law and Order. I didn't even know there was a Law and Order UK. Jeez.
Law and Order's everywhere, don't you know?
Oh, yeah. He wrote Day One, the first regular episode of Torchwood, and that one had as I recall, a pretty explicit sex scene.
Torchwood was geared for the adults and not the kids.
Yeah. It was geared for also people who don't mind looking at men kiss each other.
Because a cyber woman that was scantily dressed.
Yeah.
You had an alien woman making out.
Well, yeah, I remember. That first one where they show two young people having sex in a club bathroom, and then he dies and gets disintegrated by the act. And it's. I always thought that was kind of weird how they had. And this is actually, I mean, when I say weird, I mean in a kind of a good way. I mean, you had this after 9 p.m. show called Torchwood where they could say the F-bomb, they could show, more sexual stuff. Then you had Doctor Who, which was PG, but yet took place in the same universe. And then you had, in the same universe, you had Sarah Connor, or not Sarah Connor Chronicles, Sarah Jane, her adventures, which were very G-rated. And yet they all existed in the same universe, and then in the, I think that Russell T Davies' finale on the show, that he brought them all together. But you have that episode where I think it was called Utopia, where Jack Harkness, is guest stars, and he's about to flirt with some guy, and the 10th Doctor goes, Jack, and then he's like, I'm just saying hello, and
it wasn't the guy. It wasn't the guy. It was the alien girl that was the helper.
It was a guy too. It was a guy too earlier in the episode.
Well, and it was right off the bat at the beginning.
Because I'm just saying hello, and then when he started hitting on Chun, what's her name, Chantho. He's like, "Can't I say hello to anyone?" And what was tongue in cheek about it was the doctor was basically saying, "You're on my show, you can't behave like that," kind of a deal. Almost, it was almost like a wink and a nod, like you're forgetting whose show you're on.
Going back to the Torchwood episode where they were having sex in the club bathroom, first thing that popped in my mind was from Eddie Murphy's concert was, "What's next? You stick your dick in and you explode."
Yeah,
right there. It's like, did they actually watch Eddie Murphy back in the day, or what?
In the good old days, you get some, and your dick hurts, you get a shot, clear it right up. Then they came out with herpes. You keep that shit forever, like luggage. Now they got AIDS. It just kills motherfuckers. I say, what's next? You gonna stick your dick in and you explode?
Yep. And that was the first thing I thought of when I seen that episode.
Woman's on the bed going, maybe I should see a doctor about this. But it was
I only watch Doctor Who now because I get involved with the debates, so I got to know exactly what I'm talking about. But boy, it kills my head watching them because all I want to do is throw shit at the TV.
Did you know that was it Zenimax had pushed to the BBC the idea of a Doctor Who MMORPG, and tentatively it was going to be called Time Lords, where you create a Time Lord, you name it, and all that kind of stuff, and it had all these customizations. Obviously, you could regenerate your character either randomly, or your initial character customization, you could control, and then you had your own TARDIS that you could design both the exterior and the interior. And you would go, the zones were basically different time periods and planets. You would level up your character and everything. You would run into the other doctors. They had this idea where you could run into, any of the doctors in any of the places that you went to. And BBC rejected it. Just out of hand, like when we don't want to license this out to video games, and it's like, okay, and that was kind of what led ZeniMax to make Elder Scrolls Online.
Well, see, there was a fun Doctor Who mod for Fallout 4, where you actually had a TARDIS and you were a Time Lord, and you had to go to high radiation zones to recharge the TARDIS, and you died, you'd actually regenerate instead of just respawning. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. But I mean, you could have, and Doctor Who fans would have played it. I mean, if the gameplay would have been great. I mean, the idea was that, you were going to have your sonic screwdriver and you weren't going to really fight. it wasn't an action RPG so much as it kind of reminds me of like gameplay. Almost kind of reminded me of Portal, the way they described it, where you don't have a gun. You just use your sonic screwdriver to affect the environment, and that's what stops people from shooting at you and things like that. So I mean,
and if they made a good game, they might have actually got more viewers.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. But it's sad, that they, yeah. I mean, it's funny how it just happened to every big franchise all at once. It seemed like Star Trek, Star Wars. Yeah.
Of course, at least with the Doctor Who, you can see how the ratings are tanking with it.
Well,
unlike Discovery, who hides all their ratings.
I tried to talk to somebody one time on a message board about it. He was arguing me. He said, Doctor Who's better than it's ever been before. I'm like, based on what metric? I kept giving him all the links and all those. All those sites are fake news. I'm like, okay, what? It says, you're going to, BBC's going to lose all their American revenue from the show because we're tuning out. And he goes, that doesn't matter. He says, your American revenue doesn't finance this show. I'm like, really? It doesn't finance the show? He says, no, there's a television license in the UK that everybody pays, and that pays for the show. And I'm like, yeah, that may have paid for the show before, but you can tell when they started getting, having access to the revenue from the United States when it was a hit, because that's when all of a sudden in the Moffat era, that was the first episode of Doctor Who, regular episode of that show that was in HD, was the 11th hour. And all of a sudden the special effects got really good, instead of being budget effects, the production value became huge. And it's like, if you wanted to go back to, the way it was before, where they had to have budget effects, the Slovene were not a very good effect. I'm sorry. As good as the episode was, that werewolf in the second season of Tennant's run didn't look that great. I mean, it was fine, it worked, but it wasn't spectacular. Not like the dinosaurs on a spaceship. Even though it was a dumb episode, the effects were pretty good. If you want it to go back to that kind of production value, keep it up, because Americans aren't going to stand for this. They're not going to watch it. You're not going to get advertising revenue. It's not going to go back to BBC, and you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, whatever. Okay, bye.
I'm going to answer something Professor is saying, that he's talking like the ratings are about the same as Capaldi's ratings. They may be about the same, but Capaldi's ratings was way below Smith's or Tennant's, and that's because the writing during Capaldi and into this one sucks, and not as many people are watching it. They got a big spike when she took over as the Doctor.
Yeah, people were curious.
Yeah. They were just curious about it, but she's tanked down, and no.
Yeah. I mean, Capaldi's Doctor, as much as I like Capaldi himself, his Doctor had to be reminded to say things like "thank you" and "I'm sorry to hear that." Clara was there to basically ensure that he showed empathy, and I thought that was. I just wasn't, I didn't have a problem with an older Doctor. I thought it was about time we started getting back to older Doctors, right? But the previous Doctors, even 9, showed empathy, and I know he got somewhat, but I hated the Sonic sunglasses.
Yeah, that kind of went ridiculous.
I'm like, no, that's you don't do that, if you want to give him something else, another tool that he uses, that's fine. I mean, you could give him I mean, Tennant had at one point this fob watch. Now, granted, it was a very specific fob watch for a very specific purpose, but it wasn't his sonic screwdriver that did it. It was this other device. You could do that. You could have something else special about the glasses, and he just starts using those. I mean, not every doctor used sonic screwdriver. Doctor number 5 didn't. He worked hands free, and so I mean.
Well, when the Sonic glasses became his browser history and everything else, that was just getting ridiculous.
Yeah. There was nothing sonic about them. But
I didn't mind him playing a guitar on a tank.
Oh no! Him
I thought that was cool.
being a musician was great. I mean, the second Doctor played a recorder.
Yep.
There was I think there might have been another Doctor who played an instrument. Was it 7? I don't remember, but him playing a musical instrument is fine. I mean, that guy was in a Capaldi was in a band. Go ahead and let him play. I mean, that was neat. And in fact, there was one piece of writing on Capaldi's era that I really liked, and that was when he's explaining to you, the audience, kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit about the Beethoven paradox.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that somebody loves Ludwig von Beethoven so much, you go back in time to visit him, and he discovers that there is no Beethoven, and then he becomes Beethoven and publishes all of his concertos and all that kind of stuff. And then the question remains, well, then where did those songs actually come from? And that was when I liked that, because Capaldi integrated music with the time travel aspect of the Doctor. And I like that he gave the Doctor that kind of a hobby. What's his face? Doctor number 5. I guess he wore what would he wear? Some kind of like a polo outfit or something.
Yeah.
And so he would play cricket, and and he had a pastime like that.
The best thing I seen Capaldi that I liked best was in the Husbands of River song, when he actually got to do the part about the TARDIS being bigger on the inside.
I'm drawing a blank on that one. Go ahead.
Where he comes in, River's going to steal the TARDIS, doesn't know the Doctor, because she only knows all the original regenerations.
Right.
One through. So she has no idea that he's actually the Doctor, but she's going to take him with on her little adventure by stealing his TARDIS. And he stops just outside the door, and he goes, "This is the moment I've been waiting for. I'm going to do it right." And then he goes inside the TARDIS, and he starts into this big whole thing about how it's bigger on the inside, and it breaks all the laws of this and that.
Yeah, that's the yeah. But that's kind of weird too, because that must have been the first. I don't know. It wasn't the first time they met then, but because you got to remember, River Song's death occurred the first time we saw her, and she, was already at the end of her.
Well, they tied it up to where he was the last incarnation to see her alive before she went to the library.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But she had no idea who he was, because she didn't know that the Doctor actually got past his cycle of regenerations.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. There's something I didn't like about that. Again, the feminism was starting to really come into play too, where of course she knows how to drive the TARDIS better than he does. And that, she was always stealing it from him while he was away and then putting it back before he got back. Things like that. I didn't think that was very good.
I didn't mind that part of it, because technically, she was conceived in the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
And
River Song was a Mary Sue. She was there to show him up and to keep him guessing, and she was a mystery to him. She had information he didn't have, and she was there to do that. And Moffat's era was all about that.
But they did it in a funny way.
Yeah, they did it a funny way, and
especially like when her and Matt Smith's doctor gets together and they both have books and they're trying to figure out which part of the book they're matching up with.
Right. But and then you had this other problem where Amy Pond, of course, was such an integral part of Matt Smith's doctor in the first couple years that when she left, of course, Moffat couldn't resist. He had to find another girl who kept what's the word? Not standing up to him, but something a little bit more annoying than that. It was like she kept keeping him focused. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't care for that.
Clara was just annoying all the way around.
Well, she was finishing his sentences, saying, telling people what he really means, and things like that. He didn't need the character never needed a character like that around before, and that was kind of, with Amy Pond. It was kind of made sense after a while because you kind of knew who she was in relation to the doctor, but for the very next companion to do the same thing was really dumb. And then and then Clara literally becomes a kind of a Time Lord herself later on, and then the same friggin' thing happens to Bill, I think, or not Bill, but the Maisie Williams character, the Viking girl.
Yeah, it was basically Maisie's character and Clara going off together in another TARDIS.
Okay. And also then Bill goes off to explore space too with her lesbian, alien friend or whatever. So
pilot.
And it's like, that's 3 in a row that 2 in a row that did that. And that's one of the reasons why Martha Jones was always my favorite.
Oh, Martha was my favorite too.
My favorite because she wasn't inherently special. She wasn't the bad wolf or the Dr. Donna or the doctor's mother-in-law or the new traveling almost Time Lord with her own TARDIS character. She just and then she did eventually start working obviously as a freelance alien hunter with Mickey Smith, but she was very much grounded. All the other companions were inherently special in some way above and beyond the human station, and Martha wasn't.
And then they make one up that doesn't even make an appearance back at all, and that's Jenny. It's supposed to be the doctor's daughter, but it's basically a female clone of the doctor.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, that was a one-off. Yeah. Well, I liked the Sally Sparrow character from Blink, but that actress in that character, that could have been a spinoff, have her do macabre stuff, investigations and things like that. You could have done that.
Yeah, that was basically the episode. They brought back everybody they could. Yeah. Which kind of made sense since the Earth was stolen.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that whole Skype call where they're all on the screen, that was kind of neat. And then they're all in the TARDIS and they're piloting the TARDIS the way it was designed with multiple pilots. That was that. I thought that was kind of neat. But yeah.
And poor Jackie, she just told to stand there.
Yeah.
See, I like Jackie. I thought she was a kick as a character on there.
Well, I remember the most endearing thing to me about Jackie was when Dr. Number 9 is in her house for the first time.
Yep,
And,
and
she's in her
throws herself out.
bathrobe, and she there's a strange man in my bedroom, and anything could happen. And he's like, no. I mean, that was, and then she's all disgusted, But what's funny is I didn't realize it at the time, but I recognized her from somewhere, but I couldn't place it. But she was in a movie with Eric Idle called Nuns on the Run, where she was about Rose Tyler's age, in that movie, and I had to look that one up, but she was always talking about compensation. They lived in low income housing, and so, but Jackie was funny.
And the one that should have got more screen time was poor Wilford.
Yeah, Wilford. A lot of fans I've met actually hate Wilford because he was literally the cause of the 10th Doctor having to die because he got trapped in that thing and had to be, the Doctor had to absorb radiation to let him out. And even though it wasn't his fault, he was a bumbling old man. There's a lot of people that just don't like Wilford for that reason, because he was the reason why they lost David Tennant as the Doctor.
And yes, Yvette Bernard was in one of the 2 movies that Peter Cushing made as the Doctor.
What's funny is that Donna had a father in her first appearance, and then he was written out because the actor passed away.
I didn't mind the Peter Cushing movies, but all they were basically rehashes of Hartnell's episodes.
Yeah, I didn't. He was a human, and he was called Doctor Who. That was his last name, so it was just, yeah.
And the Daleks couldn't move around without a little satellite just to transmit energy to magnetism to move. That was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
The best line though was later on when the reboot started. He was sitting there on laughing because Daleks couldn't get upstairs, and then all of a sudden it starts floating.
Yeah. Elevate. Yeah. Well, the Daleks were that's one of the brilliant things about the relaunch or the Russell T Davies era was they kept a lot of those designs and just souped them up without visually remodeling them. You know what I mean? All of a sudden they show you that the Daleks have this capability that we never saw before, right? The Cybermen. They actually had the Cybermen in the Russell T Davies era were actually alternate universe versions of the Cybermen. But with the first one we actually saw, they actually had one of the old school helmets in that billionaire's underground bunker in Utah. And Dr. Number 9 sees it, and he's just staring at it. And Rose is like, "What is it?" And he goes, "Is that a friend of yours?" And he goes, "No, it's an enemy." But he says it's strange to see it like this, on display, and that was a nice little member-berry. But then later, when in the Tennant season, when they reintroduced them, they've souped them up a bit. They look even better, and
then you get to Capaldi, and they go old school and bring back the Mondasian Cybermen.
Yeah. With the socks on their heads and stuff, but I like that. I like that they didn't redesign. They didn't do what Discovery did, and like when they redesigned the Klingons into something totally unrecognizable, and the Daleks still looked like the Daleks. You still run, when you saw the first Dalek in Christopher Eccleston's run, you knew what you were looking at, and and they even had a staccato voice too that was perfect. Later on when you see the Suntarans, all they did was improve upon the makeup. They didn't change the design. They just improved on the execution of the makeup.
Yep.
And, same goes with, as I mentioned, the Silurians. I thought what they did with Silurians was brilliant because, I mean, obviously in the old show, they were wearing masks and the mouth didn't move and, and the eyes didn't move. And then, then they initially show them, in those old school costumes. And then the one chick takes her faceplate off, which was just brilliant because that means now that you have an out for all those older episodes that show the Silurians with that dated makeup. It's like, okay, underneath that faceplate is one of these, and it just works.
I also liked what they did to the Ice Warriors too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When they redone them too.
Yeah. Yeah, they and they didn't make fun of the material. They didn't redesign the material. They got inside the material and updated it without changing everything. That takes precision, that takes discipline, that takes all these things that STD doesn't have. But what's another? I mean, they had some really fun new aliens like the Jadoon. I love the Jadoon. They're so ridiculous.
I love the Jadoon to begin with because you kind of looked at him as like kind of the bad guy, but then you just find out that they're kind of like mercenary cops.
Yeah, they're henchmen, if anything. And they were both the good guy and the bad guy in their first appearance. Smith and Jones, I believe is what it was called. The one where they put the hospital on the moon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now the Weeping Angels, yes, they were the best new monsters for New Who, but even they've been kind of.
Well, I do have a bit of a problem with the Weeping Angels. I'll be honest. They only work once as a monster, and that was in Blink.
Yep.
And when the second time you watch Blink, after you know their secret, you realize that there's times when they should be able to move and they're not moving. I mean, but that first viewing when you first watch Blink, yeah, they're a scary, monster.
My problem with the Weeping Angels is they started off as stone statues, but as they progressed, then you had the freaking Statue of Liberty, a Weeping Angel.
Yeah, they went overboard. They kept trying to build on them when they worked just fine the way they were originally presented. And I think that if they had just not tried to have them come back every once in a while. And I mean, Moffat, he kind of ruined his own creation every time he brought him in. I mean, the second time we see them, it was in that two-parter, and they started giving them all kinds of other powers, being able to talk through other people and things of that nature. And, for me, they only work in Blink. They don't work anywhere else.
And I'm sorry, but when the Doctor was on in a town called Christmas, with everybody around that planet, there should have been one hell of a battle going off in space because most of them people that were waiting around it didn't like each other.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, there was that whole what was that box, the Pandorica.
Yeah.
They had an alliance of all the bad guy aliens trying to out to imprison the Doctor, and he's outside Stonehenge, and all their ships are out there flying around, and so that was kind of a small scale version of the whole Christmas thing. But yeah, I mean, if you're sitting there waiting for years and years, the Daleks don't like anybody. They would have just gotten them out of the way.
The Cybermen were right up there too, so the Cybermen and the Daleks would have been fighting right off the bat.
Right. Yeah.
That church would not have been able to keep the peace.
No.
And that was the other one that pissed me off. The Silence started off cool.
Oh yeah, you didn't know what they were, and then
turn ridiculous.
Yeah, they turned into an organization. We thought it was going to be this like event, like the burn or something that was really mysterious that was coming, and Moffat was very good at leading up to something, but then the final execution was never any good. But I have to smile though, because I did like the first time Daleks encountered Cybermen in Tennant's Run, where the Cybermen are say we have a thousand legions. How many do you have? And the Daleks say we are 4. And the Cybermen are like, you would destroy the Cybermen with 4 Daleks, and the Daleks are like, we would destroy the Cybermen with 1 Dalek. I thought that was a great little exchange. It's
the other one they kind of screwed up when they brought back was the Routons.
Not familiar with that one. Let me just look those up here. Routons?
Yep.
RUTONS?
RUTANS.
Well, I don't know much about them, to be honest.
Well, they were always supposed to be at war with Suntarians.
Okay. They actually did, I think, a pretty good job with the Centaurans, and I don't know if they created the weakness, that exhaust port in the back of their necks, or if that was from the old show or not.
Yeah, that was in the old show too.
That was in the old show too. Okay, gotcha.
Because that's where they were connected when they were in the process of when they cloned all these.
Mm-hmm. And then the actor who played Strax, of course, came back later, and his limited intelligence and stuff. He always mistook boys for girls and girls for boys, and
See, I love that character.
Yeah,
I love
me too. I mean, I love how on vacation he would go to Scotland and get into bar fights.
He felt at home there.
Yeah, he's like, the guy's yelling at him in Scottish or whatever, and he's like, prefer to die and die for the glory of the Centauran Empire, and then all of a sudden he gets the conference call and he goes, Charlie, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to render me unconscious. And he's like, no problem. He goes, and he gives him a spade shovel. You better use this. Might take a while. But
Strax is one that you'd like to sit in a bar with, just to see what happens.
Well, it was funny when they first introduced him specifically, because he was a nurse. It's the greatest humiliation a Centauran can endure, to take care of the sick and injured, And there was a boy that, was not feeling well, and he treats him and stuff, and he goes, he's like, what did he say to him? He says, no, you'll be fine. You're going to be fine by this time tomorrow. You'll feel like nothing ever happened. He goes, and then someday, perhaps on the field of battle, I will destroy you in the name of the Centauran Empire. The little boy's like, thanks, nurse. I thought it was funny.
But now we're going to have to watch this holiday special coming up where they are supposedly giving Daleks a new look.
Yeah, I'm not following it. It's just...
I love the big argument that the new people that are watching this show have no clue that the Daleks are owned by nation's.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets a check every time they appear. But so I mean, I'm wondering if they change the design if enough, they then own it. The new design. I don't know.
I don't think so, because if they're still calling them Daleks, it's still owned by the family of the nation.
Yeah, Terry Nation.
And it's basically they have to use it once a season, or they lose the rights to be able to ever use it again.
Yeah.
And
Well,
people tell me that's BS, but if you go back, every season there's one Dalek episode.
At least one.
Even if it's just shown on screen briefly,
right.
the estate still has control over the Daleks, and they have to use it once a year.
Yeah, I mean the best Dalek episode I remember was the episode Dalek from the number 9 season, where he was chained up in that vault, and they put the doctor in there with him, and that's when he comes alive.
Because of Rose.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, the thing was that the Stanton, the rich guy who had the Dalek, he called it, something else. I don't remember what he called it. Let me look it up, because that's going to bother me now.
Robert Rose Jr. brings up the Ood.
The Ood. Yeah.
Okay. I like the Ood.
Yeah. Hold on.
And that's just dumb Indy if it's a female Dalek, because that was all bred out of the Daleks by Davros.
Here we go.
Daleks were never male or female. They were just a Dalek.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The Metaltron, that's what he called it. And it didn't talk or anything. It just screamed. And he wanted to get it to talk. And he puts the doctor in there, and it starts talking all right, And yeah.
Exterminate.
They did, the Daleks were all, I kind of liked in the Capaldi era, they went inside them a little bit with that one episode where they showed you what those, tanks or whatever that they'd ride in, that they're also designed to essentially keep them in an aggravated state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
Oh, yeah. So, just a couple of more days, you bet, and we get to have our brains melted.
Yeah, you have to let me know how bad that episode was. I mean, I guess Harkness is in it too, I've heard.
Yeah, they're bringing Harkness back to try to save the show.
Didn't they also have Tennant in one of these later episodes with Jodie?
I don't know. There's talk Tennant's going to be back for one of them, but I'm not holding my breath. But basically, it's just trying to bring back whatever they can to save the ratings.
Yeah. Didn't they also have the Jodie doctor go back to and rescue one of the family of blood members?
That was one of the comic variations that they
it's
had.
Comic then. Never mind.
Well, it was more of a cartoonish special that they put out.
Okay.
It wasn't a real episode of Doctor Who. It was just some short they put out where they had her voice and her character in comic form, and
okay. It was just a story. It wasn't anything official.
It completely undermined what Tennant did.
Yeah, it did. Well, especially if the only one she rescued was the little girl one, because they were all about the same age, even though one of them referred to, two of them were parents and two of them were siblings. They were still given that their lifespans were very short, all about the same age.
No, every time you turn around, they're trying to do something to ruin something of the back stories.
Well, that's what hacks do. I remember. There was a Watershed Batman comic that came out in the 80s, around 1986, when Batman got revamped along with the rest of the DC Comics universe, and it was called Batman Year One. It was, for a long time, it was the definitive origin of Batman, and Frank Miller wrote it, and David Mazzucchelli illustrated it. And in it, there's this very dramatic, very cool scene where Batman sort of introduces himself to the Gotham City, underworld. They're all at a gangster's house eating dinner. The mayor's there. All these city fathers are there, and Batman blows up basically blows up one of the walls and steps out of the in costume and tells them that none of you are safe now, and and then disappears. It's a great little piece of theatrics, right? Well, years and years later, not that too many years later, but about 10 years ago, Matt Smith was hired to do like 4 issues of a Batman comic, and he has Batman tell somebody that when that explosion went off and he blew off part of the wall and walked through it, he pissed his pants.
I would too.
But the thing is that you just don't do that. That's first of all, toilet humor is all he really is. I mean, I've never seen Matt Smith to me will always be a dick and fart joke guy anyway. But you don't take one of the best moments in a character's comic history and then create an aspect of it that deflates it. And the idea of Batman peeing his pants just is it doesn't work. It doesn't work for the character. And and the thing about Matt Smith is that because he's a sort of a, I wouldn't call him a household name, but because he has his own fan base that will buy the comics, and that's a boost to sales, DC lets him get away with it, yeah. To me, that's something a hack does. Leave somebody else's work alone. Create your own good stuff,
I just don't have any faith in any of these franchises anymore.
Well, they're not hiring good people. That's for sure. Mandalorian is decent enough. I actually really enjoyed that first season, especially the episode with the Jawas.
I'm going to start watching some of these Marvel series as they release them next year. See how bad they go.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like you got to kind of pay attention to WandaVision and know what's going to happen in the next Spider-Man movie to know what happens in the next Doctor Strange movie. It's like they're tying everything together.
Yeah.
Good night, you bet.
Well, yeah. I know that Wanda's supposed to play a significant part in the Doctor Strange movie, and I'm thinking they're actually going to alter her character to be more in line with the comics, because in the comics, depending on the writer, Scarlet Witch's power is actually she manipulates reality, but she also does it unconsciously. So a lot of bad things can happen around her and stuff. So she's like they literally made her a witch in the comics.
Well, everything that I've been watching so far, they say what happens in WandaVision causes everything to go wrong in the Spider-Man movie. And that's why Doctor Strange ends up in the Spider-Man movie. And then what happens during that is the major cause for Doctor Strange's movie.
Yeah. The Loki series is actually the one I'm kind of looking at.
I think
fondly.
The Loki series might be fun to watch.
Yeah.
When you have all these different reality versions of Loki interacting with each other. I'm also looking forward to the What If.
Yeah, that could be good as an anthology series.
Because it looks like they're going to take everything from the comics, the What If series, and they're going to play it out in these issues that they put out for that.
Nice. Yeah, What If was a fun comic. I remember the original run.
Because you're going to get to see what if Peggy Carter became Captain America.
Yeah.
You're going to see the episode where what if Captain America become a zombie.
Yeah.
What if it was Black Panther that got swooped up instead of what's his face from Guardians of the Galaxy?
Oh, if the Ravagers kidnapped him instead.
Yep. That's going to be another episode.
Well, that's weird because the reason why they picked up Peter Quill was because he was the son of Ego. That's why.
Yeah. Well, they're doing it. What if T'Challa was the one that was picked up instead?
Weird. Okay.
So I don't know.
Problem is now, how are they going to? Obviously, we're not going to see Chadwick anymore. I mean, so
well, this is all comics anyway, so
right.
It's all animated.
The ones. So it's an animated show.
Yeah, it's the what ifs are all is animated.
Oh, I didn't know it was animated. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I had some of my favorite. I mean, I think the first What If comic I ever got was What If Uncle Ben Had Lived.
Yep.
And that was where Aunt May got shot instead of Uncle Ben, and everything was a lot different then. A couple other characters. What if Elektra had lived? That was another one. Frank Miller did that one. That was pretty cool.
And then, of course, they already announced that what's his face plays Banner will show up in She-Hulk. Ruffalo.
Yeah, I don't care for the state of the Hulk right now in the MCU. So, but speaking of Hulk, I mean, another one of my favorites was what if Rick Jones became the Hulk instead of Banner? So,
everything I've heard about the She-Hulk right now is that Ruffalo will make an appearance as probably just Banner in that one, and they're supposed to have the Abomination in it.
Well, I've heard it's going to be like Ally McBeal. They're basically borrowing a lot from the Dan Slott run on the character. Dan Slott came in and wrote a 2 or 3 year run on the She-Hulk where it was all about her sort of getting kicked out of the Avengers mansion for throwing too many parties and sleeping with too many guys. And so she went back to being a lawyer, a criminal lawyer, and she did very little superheroing. It was all sort of like a Ally McBeal sitcom comedy kind of comic. And that's what I've heard they'll probably do. So,
and there is rumors, though it's only rumors right now, that Matt Murdock will show up in the Spider-Man movie. Probably not as Daredevil, but he'll at least show up as a lawyer for Peter. But it's only rumors right now.
I'd like to see some of those actors from the Netflix series.
Well, the Daredevil's Netflix series, they are officially off the ban now of the so much time period when Netflix said they couldn't do. So everybody in Netflix is eligible now for the MCU.
What's that?
Everybody that was in Daredevil is now eligible to be in an MCU movie.
Oh, yeah, because they didn't have the non-compete anymore.
Yep. They officially went off that. So if they use the same actors or not, that's the question.
Mm-hmm.
I would say they should use the same actors.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing. I mean, I'm of two minds when it comes to Bernthal's Punisher. He looks an awful lot like the John Romita Jr. version of the Punisher, but except for his build, he's too small a guy. That's my big problem with Bernthal as the Punisher. The Punisher and Captain America are the same size in the comics. In fact, they're the same size. I mean, obviously, Cap is a lot more physically, he's physically superior to the Punisher, but that's how big he is. Big, broad shoulders. I mean, Dolph Lundgren technically was the most physically accurate Punisher we've ever got, even though he didn't wear the costume and didn't have the MO and was a cop instead of a Marine and all that. Everything else was wrong, but his physicality was right.
I don't know. Yeah. I kind of got a soft spot for Blumenthal's Punisher.
That's his name, right? Blumenthal. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Blumenthal? Really? I thought it was Bernthal. Damn. Okay.
But I liked him clear back on The Walking Dead, so what the hell can I say?
Yeah.
But I also love Kingpin that they have.
Right Private Pile from Full Metal Jacket.
Way better than Professor Arturo as the Kingpin back in the Incredible Hulk movies, TV movies.
Yeah. Or what's his face?
Or Thor that they had back then.
Yeah. Or no, but there's been three Kingpins on screen. There's been, the Indiana Jones's buddy, or I should call him just Gimli, because he played Gimli too.
And I just call him Arturo because
his name is Bernthal, not his name is Bernthal, not whatever you had. I don't mind Bernthal. I just think there are better choices, but at least he got the rugged, the brutishness pretty well. But anyway.
But Private Pile is actually the best Kingpin so far I've seen.
Yeah, Vincent DeFornio. Yeah, I think that's his name.
He might not have the fatness of the Kingpin, but he's got the size. He's got the size.
Yeah. Well, the Kingpin was one of those characters that would be very difficult to do accurately in a live action film, because he was sort of built like a sumo wrestler. So he was physically powerful, despite the fact that he had this massive gut. And when Daredevil fought him during the Frank Miller run on the title, Kingpin cleaned his clock. He totally underestimated him, and when he took off his shirt, you saw that his gut was actually just large muscles. He didn't have a six pack, but he was strong. He had great big arms, and he was just built differently. That when he wore clothes, he looked fat, but when he took them off, when he took off his shirt, you realized he wasn't flabby at all. He was actually quite muscular, and like I say, like a sumo wrestler, sort of. But yeah.
My only problem with the old Incredible Hulk movies is killing the Hulk off by falling from a plane. Really?
Yeah. Well, there was a plan for him to come back, but then Bill Bixby, died of prostate cancer, and that was it. I didn't care. I didn't care for any of the NBC Hulk movies. After the CBS show was much better, in my opinion.
That was basically as ridiculous as Ralph Hinckley having to give up the super suit to a blonde tree hugger for the greatest American hero.
Oh, dumb.
I'm glad that pilot never made the air. So I watched it once and I thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And plus, poor old Bill Maxwell was just getting too damn old to be running around with somebody with a super suit by the time they made that pilot.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Well, William Catt was pretty old himself by that point.
Yep. The only one that still looked decent was Connie Selica.
Oh man, yeah,
I swear she don't age.
yeah.
I would love a new Greatest American Hero. I just would hate to see what kind of writing they made for it.
Well, here's my big problem with the Greatest American Hero is it's really easy to make it too close to. I mean, it already is more or less very close to Green Lantern, and that was one of the things that kind of irked me was that Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie that came out. A bunch of critics online said they just ripped off the Greatest American Hero. I'm like, no. Greatest American Hero absorbed some ideas from Green Lantern in the comic.
It might have, but the whole love for the Greatest American Hero was him keep losing the instruction booklet and trying to figure out these powers.
Yeah.
With no idea what it would do.
His method of flying was funny too, because basically, he wasn't graceful. His arms would flail about, and he would scream.
By the third season, he was getting the flying down finally.
Yeah.
And in the first 2 seasons, if he was carrying something, he flew decent.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it, the reason why it seemed like he never learned really how to fly, at least until later seasons, was because that show, like so many other shows, relied on stock footage. And so when all you have are flying scenes of him screaming and flailing his arms, that's what you're going to use. I mean, that suit was designed to be filmed in different ways. So, for example, there's a reason why the symbol on his chest is symmetrical. And the reason also why they liked that actor, because he didn't have his hair parted on either side. He basically had a beach perm, right?
Yep.
Because back in those days, what they would do is they would do a bunch of stock footage, and then sometimes just to shake things up, they would reverse the image. And so if he had like a Superman S on his shirt or something like that, you would notice it because it would be backwards. But when the symbol is symmetrical, that's not a problem. And that's what they did with a lot of shots. And I think that, I would say by the beginning of the first season, he felt pretty confident every time he took off and flew with that suit on. It's just they had a lot of shots that were left over from the first season. Yeah. You got all kinds of costumes, don't you?
That's right. There's only one part to this costume I don't have yet. And that's the boots.
Oh, yeah.
Because the boots, you have to order from China.
Yeah.
And right now, I just don't want to order anything from China.
Yeah, I understand.
So I bought me a red pair of tennis shoes. Said the hell with it.
Works. Yeah.
One day I'll buy the boots, though. But I love that show because he'd run, you'd hear an old train noise.
Oh yeah, yeah. My dad wouldn't let me watch the show, because he didn't catch the pilot. He and Mom were at a meeting or a party or something, and I was left at home alone, and I watched the pilot, and so I got what it was about, and he tried to sit down and watch it, and he just this is stupid, and he would turn it off. And it was very strange because he's the guy who took me to see Superman the movie, right? And I'm like, why did you we went to see Superman the movie in the theater and you thought it was fine. What's wrong with this? And he just wouldn't give an answer, But this was back when we only had one TV in the house, so I had to, whatever he wanted to watch went, So.
And John brings up a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Where the hell did he stash the boots at when he was dressed normally and he had the super suit underneath wearing it?
Yeah, those were questions that were not answered, and because they were never asked on the show. I got the impression that his boots were not boots. I got the impression that they were basically stockings with soles in them.
Because you could sit there and see when he'd have the cape tucked up, it'd make his shirt
Yeah.
puff out.
Yeah.
But yeah, they could have been just stockings, but still they wouldn't fit into a shoe having the hard sole part on the bottom. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, hell, it's after midnight.
All right,
Bill
Deej.
should be going
I'll
by
let you
now.
go.
It's been 2 hours now, and Bill should be going, so everybody can swing over to Insomniac Soup. I'm going to go
Okay.
outside and check to see what kind of a mess is out there with the ice on top of the snow now.
All righty, Deej. Talk to you later. Thanks
Thanks for
having me.
coming.
Yep, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. See you. Good night, guys, and have a good one, and we'll be back soon.